The next item on the agenda is presentations and resolutions, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Mr. Birdie, members of the board, we do have one presentation this evening, and that is a school spotlight on West Elementary. At this time, I'll turn it over to the principal at West Elementary, Mrs. Missy Moeller, and I will allow her to introduce our special guest as well.
Thank you. Mr. Bearding and the board for having us here this evening. As Mr. Smith said, I'm Missy Mueller, principal at West. This is my 4th year at West in being at the elementary, and I brought with me, I'll let her introduce herself.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Moore. This is my 2nd year teaching here at Fairfield West. I moved here last year from Alabama, so I'm just so excited of the opportunity. Fairfield is just absolutely wonderful.
And we are blessed she moved here. All right, well, tonight we thought we'd give you a break from COVID because that was my original plan. Then I heard Paige did it, so I didn't want to go back on that. A huge focus this year at West is the diversity. So we're going to share some things about West and our diversity there. So as you know, the mission of the district is teaching our children and ourselves to learn, live, and work together in a vibrant and diverse world. West, who are we? This is the breakdown of West if we look at our, based on race. Asian Pacific Islanders is 5%, Black is 18%, Hispanic is 7%, multiracial is 8%, and white is 61%. We have 572 students right now. And while we have 23 different countries represented at West as well. While these numbers seem pretty normal for us, when you really get in the building and you really break down looking at classrooms, it really is not completely West. We find that people don't mark like what race. So as you see in a lot of the pictures, we are way more diverse than that. So it's quite interesting. And a couple years ago when we stamped like different things, took kids' pictures and put them on the wall, it really kind of came out. And West is becoming more and more diverse. Per the district, as we go down through the buildings, the district CDA, we have in our building a parent CDA. Well, over the past couple years, and even when I was at the intermediate school, we struggled to get parents to come in and be part of this committee. I struggled, we did the coffees, we tried the coffee, the breakfast, so we've tried it all. We tried to kind of mimic some of those to see if we could get more parents involved. And really, it always was the 2 admin, 1 teacher, and a Caucasian or white mother would come in. We're like, this isn't really doing any good. Even our first one last year was that way, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't help us. So Brittany, the assistant principal, and I sat down and we brainstormed, and we went and we said, you know what, maybe it's the name that's scaring it. So we changed it to West Parent Diversity Advisory Team, because that's really what we're asking them to do. We're asking them to advise us and give us more information about what they're experiencing and what their kids are experiencing at West. Then we said to teachers, okay, we want you to pick 2 to 3 families, send these letters home, and call them, follow up with a call. Invite them, tell them we want to talk to them, we want to just see how they're doing, see what they're experiencing at West. Then Brittany and I both called families too. We each took some teams. The first one that we had right after we did all that, we had 8 different families there. It was amazing. And as you can see, we had a Native American mom who's truly, I think she said like 80% Native American, a biracial family. We had Ghana, African American. We had Dominican Republic there. So we had a huge variety. And we are blessed that Denise and the committee gives us these videos and things like that. So I was prepared with them. We didn't even touch it. We dug right in to multiple things. And I explained from the very beginning that our goal is to just kind of talk to you, see your experience. This year we're going to do it again, and we're going to contact those same families. But from that meeting, these are the things a few things that came out of it. The pictures and the books, that's always a conversation that we have. And then when I go back and look, and I'm like, yeah, we don't have enough of that. And they said, you know, when you walk first in, you don't see that. And that should be something that parents and families see right away, and students. One that really kind of stood out to us too, one of the families said, I was so glad to get this because my daughter's in middle school and she's struggling. And it was actually Dad, and he said, I have some ideas. I'm like, okay. He said, sit like students, especially in that first month with like students. I mean, that's a conscious decision. He's like, in scheduling, well, we already scheduled, we make sure we schedule that way, but we didn't go to the teachers now. On these first days, as you're building a community, sit them together. Don't sit them across the room and isolate each other. So that was one of the things that was a great conversation we had about like what that means to them. Monthly and weekly spotlights, they came up with the theme, We Are West. So you'll start to hear that as the year goes on after the next couple of meetings. So we'll definitely, that'll be the lead for next year as well, We Are West. So that was another one that came out of, there was just some great conversations, and they found out some of the stuff that we were doing that they didn't know either. That led to this year. We struggle a little bit to get teachers. They're pulled in so many different ways that we use the same strategy to get our staff this year. We personally invited them, we changed the name, and then I'm going to let Mrs. Moore, who is part of that committee, share right now.
Well, as she stated, compared to when we started last year, we did have some people to come into the meetings, but we just wanted more. We wanted the school to be represented with the parents and with the faculty and with the staff. So with the diversity advisory team, we do now have a diverse group of individuals on the team. We have African-American males, myself, African-American females. We have veteran teachers who've been teaching close to as long as I've been alive. So all that across the board. So due to the fact that we have that diversity, we're serving a diverse group of children, so therefore the committee should be diverse as well. So we're very excited about that. But the goals for our team is just to evaluate the building culture of relative to diversity in our school. We have diversity, but knowledge is power. So we have to educate ourselves so we can educate our little people. So that's just so important. We need to increase the cultural awareness of all staff members. When we talk about culture or talk about diversity or race, that's a very sensitive subject. So we're trying to find ways to get people comfortable in discussing those particular topics because it is something that needs to be addressed. If things aren't addressed, you can't help enhance the problem or help solve the problem. So that is something that we're really focusing on. We want to increase student engagement and learning opportunities. We're doing that a lot through the Kagan strategy as much as we can with COVID without them touching each other. But just that communication piece, building the community, letting them know that everyone is special. You may not look like Mrs. Moore. Mrs. Moore may not look like you, but we're all special in our own special way. So that is something that we really have been focusing on. And the cultural awareness of all ethnicities. We, as Ms. Muller said before, we have a wide range of cultures represented at our school. So it's not just the black, the white issue, but to focus on all cultures and let the kids know we are all in this together. That's our theme that we hear all the time, not just with the culture, but not with the society of things going on, but with the race. We can all learn from each other. We all bring something to the table, but if we are afraid to take it and talk about it, you will never know. And like I said before, knowledge is power. All right, so far as the advisory's team focus area and the students and the staff, for the physical environment, we are really focusing on pictures of diverse families and people. That's what we see, therefore that needs to be represented as well. We're doing a culture spotlight that is on the morning announcements. Ms. Muller and the assistant principal, they will have different kids from different cultures to speak in their language, just to have the kids become more aware of their friends. You know, it's something extra that they can learn from their friends. The maps of countries where students are from in the entryway. We have kids from different areas, so the map will represent those children where they're from. And this is for students and staff as well. For the staff, we will have diversity training from Mr. Tommy Lewis. We will have small group discussions during a faculty or staff meeting where we can just talk about it. So small group, you know, people tend to feel a little bit better when it's a smaller crowd, so we can just try to dig in, get deeper, and just have authentic conversations. We're also going to have diversity training by Ms. Georgine Bowman, and That's just for the staff. Like I always tell my kids, and I have a display in my classroom, knowledge is power. Knowledge is so powerful when you have that knowledge. When it's in your brain juices, I always say that to my kids. I do teach first grade. But when, kiss your brain, happy, snappy. But once that knowledge is in your brain, no one can take that away from you. So you need to do all you can to get that knowledge in your brain. So not only to help yourself, but to help other individuals as well. For the students, the education component, we're focusing on the PBIS. We're doing monthly books. As Ms. Muller, she has numerous books to talk about different cultures that we will have displayed in the entry area, as well as in the library that they can focus on when they have their library time. And we're doing ELA passages. We know ELA is the big thing. We have to teach these babies how to read. But when you are picking the passages to teach the different skills, the plot, the setting, or whatever it may be, make sure that it's well diverse. You don't just have to do something with a specific culture or diversity group of people. Make it diverse, and then that's a conversation piece as well that some other kids, they can say, oh, we do that in our house, and there you go. That's a mini lesson right there. So that's something that we're going to focus on as well. The culture, students' name pronunciations. Now, we do know that when we are dealing with different ethnic groups, some of the names can be very long, some of the names can be very hard to pronounce. And we talked about during our meeting that sometimes you may say, I'm going to say Sandy, but we know some of the names are much more difficult than Sandy. We talked about in SharePoint to have the exact pronunciation of the word. So just like they will call me Jennifer Moore, you can pronounce that child's name the correct way and make them feel comfortable. Because I wouldn't want someone to just call me Jennifer M. You know, I want them to call my full name. So that is something that we're talking about that we will incorporate in the future. We need to build community building with the faculty, with the staff. Everyone's important. We all have different things that we bring to the table. But to become knowledgeable of it, we have to talk about it. It has to be discussed and try to find that common ground where we are comfortable to talk about it. So that ice has to be broken somewhere. So that's something that we're really focusing on. The personal experiences. We all bring something different to the table. But if we don't talk about it, we won't know. So again, breaking that ice, talking, trying to feel comfortable with each other, and just go from there. And that relationship building as well. We use that a lot with the Kagan strategies. Again, not touching. But just feeling those ways of building relationships, building our likes, our differences. So we have a lot of things that we're really focusing on in that area. The UBU is a book that we have been talking about this school term, just to talk about diversity, talking about your likes, talking about your differences. It's okay that you may not look like your neighbor. It's okay you may not feel the same way that your neighbor may feel. It's okay, but we're all special in our own special way. With my kids, I have an EA to work in my classroom, and we're different. She's a Caucasian, of course. I'm African American, and her hair is very long, and as you can see, mine is very short. But we were just talking. I said, you know, I'm happy with my short hair. If she doesn't have to have short hair for her to be okay. You know, it's totally fine. She loves her long hair. I love my short hair. You be who you are and be comfortable with the skin that you're in. Because no matter what, you are special. You bring something to the table. Someone can learn something from you, but you have to get to that point within yourself that you're not trying to be like others. Be happy with the model that you are. So I had that lesson brought it down to first grade. So, you know, trying to do all of that, but they really understood that. And I mean, I can just say for a personal note of coming from down south, some people talk about the southern twang that He was speaking the other day about the just, you know how Southern people, you can hear it in my voice, I'm quite sure. But I used to try to cover that up, you know, and try to not talk as like a Southerner. But once I realized, you know, it's just a blessing to have a voice. So many people cannot talk. The fact that I have a voice and I can project who I am and how I feel to others, and I can express my love that I have for children, just my personality within itself. When I started being comfortable in my skin, it's like everything around me just changed. So the importance of you being you, loving yourself, continue to just know that you're special with the model that you are, and don't try to mimic someone else. Granted, you can pull some ideas from other people, but trying to be a cookie cutter, just be you. So that's my part. Back to you, dear.
You be you. We're blessed she's her. Here, I'll probably have you hands books over. So you be you is one of the examples of the community building and the teaching. If you want to take a couple over there. We spent part of last year getting lists and books, and the kids have not had these in their hands for a week, so you're good.
Such a great job.
From meeting last year, we started making lists and SharePoint. So Brittany, Jennifer, myself, a couple of my friends would send me books and we'd put them on this list. So we've begun purchasing them. And as you look through them, you'll see it represents different people. And I had said this at an admin meeting recently. When our counselor was reading a book in the library, she held it up, and one of the little girls, this was the first or second grade, got so excited because that looks like my mom. And it was an African-American mom and little child. And she was so excited. And that's one of those moments you go, yeah, we don't have enough of this, right? So you'll see we've got some Arabic, we've got some Hispanic folks. Some of them, there's one, the preschool picture book that comes around. It says right in the beginning, we may not speak the same language, but we can play. You know, we have first graders that say, I can't play with you because you're different, or because you're dark. And they don't usually use the word black, they'll say they're dark. So these are the things that come out of these meetings that, like, how do we teach them? You have to explicitly teach them. So that's what our focus is. With these books, we are doing one a month. So we have picked some out that match our character traits for the month to make sure that we're doing that. And throughout the building, we're doing different things with the books in library, in classrooms, to really promote seeing different groups. And some of these are explicitly teaching. The Skin Again book that's coming around too, in it says, the skin I'm in is just a covering. It cannot tell my story. If you want to know who I am, you have got to come inside and open your heart way wide. That's in that book, and I think that is an amazing quote from that. So the books are really a good way to get students and really get conversations going. And like Jennifer said, you know, it's uncomfortable, but if we can get our teachers comfortable, then we're going to be better at teaching explicitly. The monthly spotlight started last year, kind of discussions, and it's really bloomed. And again, you know, we get our knowledge from everyone. And Mike Holtz in our group in our diversity group, is a music teacher, and he has some websites. And I'm like, we really got to get this going. How are we going to do this? He goes, oh my gosh, Carnegie Hall made with Disney, and they did this whole spotlight thing. I'm like, really? And it's by countries, and it's by different regions of the country. And then we got this whole discussion of, but we got to be careful how we, you know, portray different things. So this is this month's theme. We're starting with South America, and we'll go into descriptions in the morning. It'll be on the morning announcement. So it's simulcast. So everybody in the entire building. I don't know if you know, Hispanic Month was September 15th, October 15th. So that's why we started there. So I'm going to play a short video that the students see.
Oi, tudo bem, musical explorers? My name is Fabiana. city has the most bikes in the region. We used to go riding bikes to school, which was really, really fun. I started singing around 5 years old when my mom used to play organ for us in the living room. We used to sing songs and lullabies. It was really beautiful. And when I was about 8 years old, I joined the choir in the school, and I participated in plays, in which I was a butterfly. It was really awesome. Brazilian music was everywhere when I was growing up. And I remember we used to go to a matinee party in a ballroom, and all the kids would dress up in costumes and celebrate Carnival, which is our biggest celebration of music and dance. And that's where I learned my dance moves of samba. So when I was about 15 years old, I joined many bands, and I started making my own money and traveling. It was really, really fun to meet all these people in different cities and entertain all the audiences. So when I was 18, I got into college to study music. Then I decided to go to the United States, in California, to study more music. And then I moved to New York, which I'm here, and I'm so excited to study and play with all these amazing artists. Every part of Brazil has different styles of music, and the most popular one is samba. In Carnival, each neighborhood has their own samba school representing them. They have dancers, they have drummers, people dressed up, and they all parade, and whoever has the highest score wins the championship. Brazilian music is so special to me because it brings all people together to celebrate life. It makes you happy and smile and dance around. So I'm so happy that you are going to enjoy it too. Obrigada, musical explorers. Enjoy learning music and culture from my country. Ciao!
So that's one example that, that we're doing, and it's great because it's upbeat, it gives a lot of information, and I think what's really critical in that is kids will relate to those pictures. She looked like she could be anywhere in the world when she's dressed up in little. Like, it doesn't look any different than here. And a mistake people, make when they speak to people is like, no, like, what, America, like, you wouldn't know where that is in the world. So it's just visual representation. They hear the language, they see her, they can relate to her. Some of our kids we have not kids from Brazil, we have more further north than that. But it's just a nice positive way, culture and music and dance. Now, we'll do facts the rest of the week that are just said, but this is the intro to the week. Samba, if you've never seen samba dancing. We can't really show that. We were hoping to, but I can't find any with appropriate outfits on because the clothes they wear is not appropriate. So it does take a little bit of screening on our part for that. So, and also we are trying to be very careful not to portray any stereotypes for areas. So like when we show areas of the country, we're very careful not to show like poor and like, because we don't want kids to have inappropriate stereotypes or to feed any stereotypes. Another way that we're going through some of the steps or the goals of our teams was community building, and Mrs. Moore spoke a lot about that. And this is an example, you can't really see, the little girl has on the hat, hello, in like 20-some different languages. We did start with Hello Week 2 weeks ago, and we did different, the kids came up to the announcements and said hello in different languages every day. And it was great. The kids, we even like celebrated, gave them a shout out because they were brave enough to come in front of 500 kids and speak and say hello and where they're from and where that language was from. So that was one example. Me Behind the Mask was another community building to get to know the kids. And ironically, the kids don't know each other right now because you figure out how many times we've been to school, it's 12, 14 times, and then their masks are on. And that really came apparent at Picture Day. So they took their mask off at Picture Day. Literally, one of our teachers started crying because the kid was smiling and she could see their eyes. And so then the photographer said, do you want to take pictures of them? So she stood behind the photographer and took pictures of each of one of them to hang in her room. And I know Mrs. Moore has pictures in her room of her kids as well without mask. And those are things that going into the school year, we didn't think about because we worried about getting the feedback, but just seeing their faces and smiling is quite amazing. So the person behind the mask, they shared about themselves, another way to build that community. And then last, the theme, We Are West. Now, there are some pictures from last year. The ones without mask are from last year, from the Heritage Night. So everybody know that. We had a huge Heritage Festival, and our students and their families put it on. So we had many. And our EL teacher that is also on, Donna Kimmel, many of you, she's been Teacher of the Year before, she's amazing. In her room, she has a world map of the students, but she reiterates all the time, smile is universal. You know, you can speak any language, but smiling is that, so she pushes that forward. So, so our students are recognizing each other in different cultures, and this year we had planned to move it up towards the beginning of the year, within the first 3 weeks of school, the Heritage Festival, to start the year, because we did it the second semester one time, and then we moved it up to like October, November, and then we were going to move it up at the beginning, because then we felt like we started the year with a foundation of knowledge, and that'll be the plan once we get out of this craziness. So we are West, and as you can see, we are very diverse. Our numbers may not show exactly how diverse we are, but we are very diverse, and we are very proud of it, and we look forward to a great year with our advisory team and wonderful teachers like Mrs. Moore. Thank you for letting us come tonight.
Any questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Shorter?
Oh, yes, this was wonderful. I really enjoyed this, and it's nice to see a fellow Bamian.
She shared that with me.
That's right. And I have my southern accent. You know, at one point I tried to suppress it, but it comes out, you know, you just,
Does it come out when you get upset?
it seems to really come out as soon as I hit the Tennessee border when I, you know, I just flow right back into it. You know, everyone's so sweet and y'all and, oh, sweetheart and all that. But yeah, diversity is wonderful. There's so many forms of it, and I like the fact that you guys are basically presenting that. It's not just racial diversity. We've got all these different countries that are represented in our schools. You know, diversity amongst, diversity pertaining to religion. This is wonderful. I think you guys are doing a great job. It's very exciting to see. And yes, so keep representing well, fellow Bamas. Now, I hear that you're from Auburn.
Yeah. We don't hold that against her.
Okay, I don't understand. But you know, roll tide, so that's.
Yeah, like, nice
I
class.
just had to get that in there, you know.
Feel free to stop by and harass her by putting something in
I'm
there.
gonna have to do that. I'm gonna have to do that, but great job. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Anyone
Mr.
have a
Shorter.
question?
Any other comments? Mr. Bagley?
Yeah, I think this is great. This is tremendous. And you talked a little bit about it. I think for many of these students, it's their first experience with somebody who looks different than them, or as you mentioned, talks different than them, sounds different than them. And to be intentional about that first experience and address it in the way you're doing it, making it a positive experience and a learning experience is huge. I think that's great. And right here at the end, you mentioned Heritage Night. I was going to bring that up. I bet that is another great way for kids to really come out of their shell and share who they are and where they're from. So I'm glad to see you're still doing that.
Thank you. And I will tell you, Heritage Night, the conversation with the parents, we're talking about, the one that was upset that her child was kind of struggling in middle school because she eats with her hands. Because culturally, that's what they did. Mm-hmm. And that's why we talked about moving the Heritage Night, because we have so much food. And one of the families that has like oodles and uzma food, they were eating with their hands. So we thought, well, that would be great, because we could tell the kids, when you're there, look for this, because this is culturally acceptable. So yeah, it's the Heritage Night is very critical, and I think it's going to be important that we do it early to kind of build on this. So we look forward to being able to do that again. So.
Mr. Gunter?
I love this. I love your message of you be you and celebrating uniqueness and differences. And, you know, even though we all are unique, that we are all in it together. I love that. I think the world needs more of that. So thank you very much.
Mr. Clark?
Yes, absolutely love it. Everything they said I agree with. The intentionality, that's one of my favorite words, is be intentional. And sometimes be bold with the intentionality. The two things that I really liked was, one, you said dads were on that committee, that council. That's awesome. More fathers need to get involved, and I think that's great that you're doing that, especially in other cultures. Sometimes it's not the thing for the dad to do, but it's important as children need that. The second part, the student name pronunciation. I think you said you're starting that soon, or?
Yes, because I'm horrible with names, and we read birthdays on
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And the clerk actually puts the phonetic spellings for me.
Yeah,
But
that's very important. I've worked with children, and sometimes the names are very long, and they are hard to pronounce it. And to be, again, intentional with that, to have the other children, that makes them fit in.
It does.
And I think that's really, really important, so.
Respect.
Respect, yes, absolutely. So, and he's talking about eating with your hands. Kids don't really see what goes on in other cultures, and we have probably 30 different ethnic groups around this area. And they may be the same color or different color, but they could be different color, but from the same area sometimes. And kids need to know that. So thank you for what you're doing. I think it's very, very important. You're doing a great job.
Yes, thank you for joining us tonight, and I think it was a wonderful presentation. I think the diversity is what makes Fairfield a great place. You know, I remember, I think it was last year or the year before, how we were celebrated by teaching someone from every country on the planet now has come through Fairfield schools, and I think that's amazing. And I love the fact that something wasn't working and you adapted, and now it's working. I think that's great. You just didn't keep beating a dead horse. You thought, this is so important that we need to change the way we're doing it. So thank you for doing that.
Took me 4 years. No, 3.5.
Well,
But I got there.
no, but I mean, you know, something is working at other buildings, it may
Yes,
not be
like-
working at your building. So I think that's important that we do adapt and adjust. So thank you very much. And you do not need to stay for the rest of the meeting. Feel free to head home.
Collect my books, though.
Yeah.
Take them home and read.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next is a portion of our agenda is communication. But before we get to that, I think it would be appropriate for Mr. Scott to introduce his family before they leave.
Yes, this is my wife Lori. Did you want them to come up or?
No, it's all right.
Okay, instead. My wife Lori, the taller one. And my daughter, who's almost as tall, that's Carly. She's in 9th grade, goes to freshman school. And then Sean, the taller boy, he goes to Creekside. And Joey is at South. So that's my pride and joy, both of them all of them right there. So.
Well, thank you for loaning your husband and father to the wonderful school district. So thank you all for coming tonight. And like I said, it's great to have him on board, and family is so important to everyone on this board, and it shows tonight how much pride you have in your family. So thank you all very much for being here tonight.
Thank you, family.